Join me in welcoming Christiaan Oranje. I hope I said that right, Christiaan.
Yeah, you did.
Thanks
You
for
did.
being here with us today. Before we jump in to talk about your book, tell us just a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, to say the least, it has been a very interesting journey because very early on in my life, I had this dream, I had this vision, and I started to work towards it, to manifest it, and all kind of things happened which kind of got in the way. And it took a very long time to actually see things come to fruition and actually see it manifest and come into this physical reality for everyone to see and enjoy, including myself. And the reason for that is, and that is something that in retrospect I can now clearly see. It was a bit different when I was in the middle of it because then I couldn't see it. But I needed that time to transform, to understand my own way of functioning and issues and how to resolve them, in order to come to a point where all the things that I have, the knowledge and the experiences and insights and tips and tools that I've gathered along the way, to offer to others who might want to use it. I don't hear your voice.
Let's try that again with volume on. How about that? Um, yeah, the book is called A Guide to Joyful Living for the Unhappy Rich. It is a memoir of your life and what you went through. So tell us a little bit about what people will find when they read the book.
They will read about the journey I've went through myself. Having lived in New York, I had my own off-Broadway show for 6 months in a weekly run, and had enough passive income coming in, so I didn't need to work. And despite all that, I needed to go to 4 therapy sessions each week in order to cope with my sense of emptiness, feeling unfulfilled and unhappy. And that brought me to the question: how come? How is it possible that people who have it all, who have this lifestyle style dreams are made of? How is it possible? And how is it possible that they end up feeling empty, unfulfilled, and unhappy? And that led me to a condition which I call the Elvis syndrome. And then in my journey of how to resolve it, basically, it came down to, and there are many components, but I just take a shortcut and offer you what the main component has been for me to resolve it all. And that has to do something which has been given names like our essence, our true self, our soul. You know,
I
that
love
has
it.
been the kind of thing that made it all very much change and allowed it all to fall into place.
So, explain to us briefly. They need to read the whole book to understand it completely, but explain to us briefly what Elvis syndrome is.
The Elvis syndrome is something where there is a disconnect between that element of soul and ourselves. And it's not really something that can be disconnected, but we have the sense that we are disconnected from it. And that basically comes down to a deep sense of not feeling alive, not feeling happy anymore, cut off from those kind of feelings and emotions. And then the Elvis syndrome is going to, for instance, let you do something that you actually don't want to do or know it is not really good, but you do it anyway. It is numbing yourself. So, for the reason of not feeling the emotions, the so called negative emotions like sadness or whatever, and anger and fear and, and all these kind of things. So, the numbing of it all is very much part of it. And then also, um, particularly for the unhappy rich, they have a reputation to maintain. They walk around with this fear to lose face when they really express themselves and show themselves and tell others how they really feel inside. So what happens is that they keep it inside and inside and inside. They they are they are therefore sliding in what you could call quite an isolated place. They walk around. They are very socially outgoing, but they pretend that everything is okay. And it is this pretending that everything is okay, and therefore also combined with it pushing down all the emotions they don't want to feel, that leads to a situation there that they really exhaust themselves. And being in such an isolated place, thinking that nobody understand and would understand, will understand, that's a very, very, very painful place to be. And why I'm so passionate to work with unhappy rich people is because they have this, they are not so much likely to speak about all these things, and so on and so forth, and therefore all keeping it inside. And that is not necessary. There's a way to change that.
I love that. So again, somebody has to read the whole book in order to get all of it. But if you were to say today, what's your favorite part of the book, at least today?
Yeah, the favorite part is actually the part where suddenly everything came into manifestation after longer than actually for than 49 years, because that is basically how long it took to overcome this Elvis syndrome for myself. And then from there, the journey started of how to bring that into manifestation. And it's just magical how to see it happen in very short amount of time, 6 months. That doesn't mean to say that everyone will have to wait 49 years, not at all, because working with certain techniques that I'm offering, it can already offer results pretty quick. The thing is, though, when someone wants to resolve the situation in a more, let's say, creating change that sticks, creating change that is durable, long lasting, then it will take a longer period of time. You can see it as like giving birth to a child. In this case, giving birth to oneself, to one's true self, to your true self. And that will take some time. Yeah, so that's the favorite part of my book.
I love that. So let's be good teachers for a minute and help people that are listening in. What is one thing that a person could do right now to begin to really start living joyfully?
The first step that I have used myself, and that's the first step that I also use in working with clients, is to create for yourself a safe and secure environment. And that comes from, we all have an aura. We all know, have heard about auras. So an aura expands and contracts, but there is also a second space, which I call a cocoon. And that space stays fixed. And it is that space that when we activate it, we can get a sense of this safety, security, if you so wish, this sense of a sacred space we are in. And within that space, and when we have established this sense of all is well, all is safe, then we can start to embrace more of certain feelings that we find maybe uncomfortable to feel. And that's one thing. And another thing is that contemplating and having the idea that there's something beyond what we can see with our physical eye. And maybe you could call it a higher power, if that's something that, you can use the word that fits to you best. That there is something greater than you waiting there for you to give the support to go through whatever you need to go through to transition from feeling unhappy to living a joyful life. And yeah, that is basically what I would say is are the things to start off with. And there's a third thing here, and that has to do with two questions. The question is, do you believe that there is a relationship between what you feel and think and what is going to happen in the future. If that is a yes, then we can go into a second question, that is, do you then believe that you can change what is happening or about to happen in the future by changing what you think and feel? And that puts us in more or in a situation of the driver's seat, because one element of the Elvis syndrome is having the feeling of that it is out of our control. We feel a kind of a victim. But to have an understanding and a knowing that with our own thoughts and feelings, we do have an influence on our future. And when we use it correctly, we can have a positive influence on what is happening in the future. And that puts us more into the driver's seat, that yes, we are able and we have the opportunity to create a future of the life we love to live.
I love that. Give us just, before we go, a couple of words of encouragement for the person that feels like, no matter how many people are around, they're just all alone and there's nobody there for them, and it's just never going to be better.
Well, first thing that comes to mind is that after 49 years suffering from the Elvis syndrome myself, and being able to resolve it, I'm sure that everyone else is able to do the same. That first and foremost. The other thing is that there are tools to be used to make that journey successful. Sometimes it is helpful, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the perfect guide for you, because I may not. It really depends on if we have a match. But it is important at certain times to work with someone, because there are certain things that are just very difficult, if not impossible, to do by yourself alone. So is to get this support, to create that kind of support for yourself, is very vital and important. And the other thing is, and that has to do with that. Sometimes we are fearful about the unknown. What is going to happen when I go on such a journey? The thing is that, again, when you have someone alongside to support you, but also when you have a good method that can guide you in that kind of journey, all those kind of things will make that journey much easier, and you will find that what you now might be fearful about, it's all going to be, turns out to be much easier at certain points, because there will be some roadblocks, but in general, I'm pretty sure that at the end of it, you will say, that was actually not that bad.
Well, I love that. The book is called A Guide to Joyful Living for the Unhappy Rich. It is available. You can actually get it, if you get it today, for free on Amazon. I do encourage you to go out and get the book. Christiaan, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
It was a pleasure to be with you, and thank you so much for having me.